Happy Sunday to you all. It is very interesting that Swami chose for this theme to live in the presence of God, the affirmation of practicality, because in one sense it seems like if they're opposite, to live in this beautiful divine consciousness without form, and on the other hand to be rooted in this reality but not identified in this reality. Talking, Swami always said that to believe if something is true, we have to feel if it works. There is this joke that it says for a marriage of success there are two rules. Well, first one is that the wife is always right. The second is if something is not working, then the first rule. I lost. Se la seconda non funziona, la prima? Okay, if the second doesn't work, you have to refer to the first one. Sorry. Okay. In this reading, Swami says something that touched me very deeply. He says, if you want to see God, you have to look for it everywhere. If you want to listen to His voice, listen in every sound and in the silence that is holding it. And if you want to get to know God, you have to look for its wisdom. It's interesting that in the spiritual path, you see in this essence of spiritual path, you have these two things. One, to search for the divine presence, and then to have this divine contact with the divine. And the second one is to apply it in a concrete way in this material world, plane. Because if we don't apply it, we do not really learn. There is like a separation between a conscious state that we probably have felt and what really we are doing. So there is a story of Master that would talk to a disciple, and he would ask to this disciple, do you love people? And this disciple said yes. And Master said, you have to love only God. And after some time, this disciple worked on it, and when he was talking again with Master, and Master said, do you love people? And he said, I love only God. And Master said, not even this is enough, because you have to love God in other people, in everyone. And so this is what we really have to learn, that is, to have a clear priority that we cannot, that our spiritual path is about having that contact, but then we have to apply it on everything we do. It's interesting about this story with Sri Yukteswar, where Sri Yukteswar had asked, do you love people? And Master said, no, I love only God. And Sri Yukteswar said, you must expand your love. And some time after, Sri Yukteswar asked again, and he said that he could only answer with a smile, because his love had become so vast, and that would include everything and everyone. But as we know, the life of Master was not only one of absorbing the infinite, but it was a life of intense practice and of construction. He created a school before anything. He talks about giving food to all poor people. He gave food to more than 1,000 people without having money at all. He could inspire so many others, and people started giving and contributing for him to do this. As a young man, then he came to America, to the West. I know not everyone who is looking at this ceremony we all know that the greatest blessing is that Master came to the West to build his opera. It's interesting that Swami says from the book of Swami, Cities of Light, there is a phrase that touched me as well. He says that the true war of modern times is that of raging between light and darkness. The most authentic weapon in this time, for those who want to help light to win, is to offer their hearts and their souls as channels of light. For the victory, it may be necessary to use real weapons if a war comes. The path of God is not passivity. The love is the divine force, and faith is as well, and light. It's interesting that this reading in another moment could be the whole reading that we have read could be seen as an encouragement. But in this moment, knowing what is happening in the world, we know that it is a call to action, a call to become really warriors of light. And this is what these times are needing, nothing less. We all must become true warriors of light, spiritual heroes. We must need to do whatever to choose light, to stay in the light, to really be clinging to light, and to be channels of this light. A friend, an Italian friend, dear friend, she told me that once in her life, when she had a very important choice to make, she dreamt. She saw Swami Kriyananda, that said, there are two flows in the universe, one that goes upward and one that comes downward. And the only choice that you have is on which flow do you want to get in tune. You want to go with that is going upward and expansive, or you want to go with connect to the one that goes downward, that is fear. And now God is giving us this choice. Where do we want to attune ourselves to its presence? Or do we want to let ourselves distract? There is a beautiful story. There are many stories, but this one is particular because it's of Saint Teresa of Avila, where Saint Teresa had so many visions and tried to stay in the presence of Christ. And in a moment of her life where she was very active, creating convents around in Spain. One morning she was in a convent. She was she was very organized and very practical. At one point, with all this intense activity, she arrived to a staircase, and downward she saw a little child. And in fact, it was a closed hermitage, convent, and she saw this child, and the child looks at her and says, "Who are you?" And she says, "I'm Teresa of Jesus. Who are you?" And he says, "I'm Jesus of Teresa." If we really do the effort in this moment to look towards God, God will come. And He will always do this. In every moment where we turn towards Him, even if the effort seems that has no response, it opens the door for the presence of God to come into our lives. If we look into our spiritual path, the only thing that is happening is only this. We are trying to make an effort to be in the presence of God, or we have left ourselves be distracted. I remember once in my life, some years ago, it was a difficult moment when I was doing the organization of all the scheda, the chart of all the services of everyone in the community. And this really is something that is very challenging. But the important thing was that in this moment, it was so difficult for me, interiorly and externally. And I arrived to a point where the only way to go through these days, was asking myself every day, from 5 to 10 times a day, why are you here? Who are you serving? And who is that does everything? And the answer was always God. And that was the only reason why I was here. Because we know that when we serve, we give everything we have, but not always it's understood or appreciated or recognized. But this is not important, because what we're doing is that we are serving God through others. An interesting thing, because I know that many of you know about astrology, and you know that this is a very special and particular moment that has a lot of opportunities. And one of the principal actors is Saturn. Saturn is a very interesting planet because it is a karma planet, but in reality it is the planet of freedom, because with the divine cosmic force that pushes us to want only two things: one, to be in peace, not to be disturbed, and the second one is to want only to be free. And for me it's interesting because Saturn, I really know it. It has a very important presence in my shoulder, and whenever something was not working, I could feel that presence. But it is interesting because Saturn manifests the aspect of God, in which it is not important how difficult something is if you know that it's going to take you to a more freedom. And it's interesting. There is a great soul that that was, his name was Richard Wurmbrand. He was a Christian minister in Romania during communism. And during the communism, where it was impossible to declare and to live your faith, he said, I cannot be loyal to God, and he was imprisoned and tortured for 16 years. And I always, comparing my life and difficult times to his life, there was no confrontation, but listening to this moment that we have now, it is a difficult moment, but imagine to be tortured for 16 years every day. It's a different reality, really. And the thing that he said when all this period was finished, he said, he had never felt so close to God like in that period. And he said that he would never change that experience. And this is something that we have to think of at this moment, because there are moments that we are here, that we came for this transition, for this opportunity. No one says that it's going to be easy, but we know that it is really an opportunity. If we really feel this presence, this interior presence, that's the opportunity. There are two moments in the life of this man that really touched me. And I think they were important moments in his life. Quando? Oh, okay. He was in his cell, and the guard came and had him walk around for hours in his cell without stopping, without eating, without drinking, just walking and walking. And he said that at the beginning he would resist. He did not want to do it, and he was praying, why have you put me in this situation? What is the sense of this? And at one point, while walking, he asked himself, could it be that this was happening if it wasn't God's will? And obviously the answer was no. And he said, so if God wants me to walk, why should I resist? And in that moment, he accepted what God was asking, and he did not resist. And in that instant, he felt immediately a great flow of grace that was holding him. And this is what we repeat every Sunday in the ceremony of light. While in the past it was asked for suffering and pain, now for us the payment has been changed into the calm acceptance and enjoy. And this is what we must practice in this moment, in however way we can. It doesn't matter about the success we have. The important thing is that we do this effort. Another thing that we must remember is that Yogananda came for this moment. We all are here, not for chance. And another thing that we must do in this war between light and darkness is to be channels in every way we can, interiorly, because we do not realize how whatever effort makes a difference. Every time that you choose not to be taken down in paranoia, in aggressiveness, in closure, in fear, but to choose to be connected with the Divine Presence, it helps the whole world. Because if we all choose this way, the world will change. It will not be immediate or easy, but it will change. Another thing that I like very much about this reading is the phrase where Swami says, to see God as if it resides in every human being, opens us to endless opportunities. Just understanding that we can to see the presence of God in others, it gives us the opportunity, it opens to serve God in every instant. Every time you meet, you encounter someone, and not in a specific way. Well, it must be specific, obviously, but we must see that this is a moment where we can serve all in so many ways, and we have to choose one. We can help someone directly, that is someone living a troubled moment, or even just walking by the street and smiling. Or if you know that it is a difficult moment for someone, you can call them. Every day we are connected through the online. We can really find so many ways to expand the light and to give to others. I think that one of the important ways to give is to pray for others. We do not realize how powerful the prayer is. There is a story about a woman from Ananda that went to a medium, and she said that she had seen great light in this person. And she stopped and she said, that light is the prayer of Swami Kriyananda. When this person went back home, she called Swami, and he said, yes, I was praying for her in that moment. And this woman said, there was such an intense light coming out. So we can be channels of light, of the consciousness for others. There's a story of Yogananda where he was talking with a disciple. It was during the Second World War. And this disciple was saying that he has difficulty meditating, that he could not calm the mind, that he was all the time somewhere else. And there was a restlessness, and Master said, it's a natural situation because all the vibrations of the war are being felt in the whole world. And this moment is the same thing. We know that it's not easy, but this is why we have to really make an effort, more determined. And we must be examples as well, because we have the most incredible instruments. we have a ray of light that has a power to change our mind and our lives. But we must know that these things work. And we must be examples of this, not only by being an interior connection, but also by expressing it. When we feel love, we must express love through the attention towards others. There is another story of a disciple of Swami Shivananda, a saint, Indian saint, and this disciple that came to him when she was very young. Swami Shivananda had asked her to take the vow of becoming a Swamini, a sannyasi, and that's a vow of renunciation. And she was scared of taking it because she would say, "And what if I cannot keep up with it?" And he said to take it, and she would say no, and he would ask her again, and she would say no, and then there were another ceremony for other devotees that were taking the vow, and the Swami asked this disciple to be there for the ceremony, and be present. And at a certain moment in the ceremony, she understood that he was including her in the ceremony, that she wasn't just a guest, but that she was taking the vow actually. And in that moment she said, okay, if he insists so much, then I should do it. Then she went to her guru and said, what happens if I can't keep up with the vow? And he said, you don't realize how much light you're bringing to this earth if you are just keeping this vow for 24 hours. And it's the same thing that we must remember, that every choice we do of being in the light is bringing light to the world. And that the important thing is not how much we think that this works, but what we really are doing. Interesting thing is that Yogananda, preferred quote of the autobiography of a yogi is that of Sri Yukteswar that says, the past lives of all the human beings are dark with shames, but everything in the future will be better if you do a spiritual effort now. And the important thing is that he says all, not some things or one thing. He says that everything will be better if you do a spiritual effort now. And now we finish this part only with a moment of asking in a subtle way, because Swami said that we must practice this, we must apply this divine presence to the practicality of our world, of our life. So put your right finger, index finger, on your spiritual eye and feel that this touch is drawing all your attention like a magnet to the spiritual eye, this point of divine contact. And try to feel deeply this divine calmness and presence, this joy. Now relax your hand and ask this divine presence, what type of of spiritual practice can I do this week to live deeper my contact with God? And then perceive in your heart, what can this be? It can be to pray for others, to meditate longer, to do a japa or chanting, or could be to stop in every hour and come back to this contact moment. When you feel it, you identify it, make a vow to practice and to maintain what you have just thought. Let's finish with these words of Swami that says that the presence and the voice of God in us tells us continuously, poor small human being, who are you to lift a stone or a sand grain without my power? Mine is the power, never yours. The true strength will come as if you open your heart and your mind to become a channel of my light, to have help to others. You really channel my help to others. When you are comfort to others, it's my comfort that arrives. When you give to others love, know that it's my love that is filling your heart and touches. Put yourself in tune with me if you want to give out what I want you to do, to realize. Blessings.